Namaste. Somebody gave this to me.
You don't remember anymore?
It was something carpenter from in England, lives near London, and it was a wedding.
Yogesh
A wedding
contractor.
I haven't worn it in a while because it's too warm, but I need warm tonight. All right, so welcome. What are we going to talk about? Anybody got any ideas?
Well, there's leftovers from the Saw weekend.
That's right. We had a Saw weekend.
Carryovers, leftovers. And we should say hi to everybody who's on Crowdcast. Do we have a few on Crowdcast tonight? 42. Oh, 42.
42.
All right.
All right. Well,
hello, everybody.
Yes. So we have just completed our last 2018 program.
Yes.
I thought it was never going to end.
We actually, next year, we have one less program.
Yeah. So it's but it always brings a sense of completion. I mean, the nature of this work is it doesn't stop. I'll rest when I'm dead, right? That whole thing. So it's not that I'm actually waiting until I die. It's actually something lived. It's something lived. My father said to me in our last conversation that that all your life you've lived for a purpose, and that you are making a difference, and I'm so proud of what you're doing. And the nature of it is, I told him, I said, well, it's not like I'm doing anything. It's like I couldn't do anything else. What else would I be doing? Yeah, I'd be wasting my time if I wasn't doing this. So I think it's probably learning how to navigate skillfully through the endless process of life, being engaged in it purposely. Once that purposeful current comes, you're just riding it. It's just taking you. And every day is just that day. Literally, Satsang has my week now. She's printing it out for me. So I know. And it's just like all I focus on is the day. Next day, it's not relevant. It's just today. So, and it's this immediacy, which makes everything so much more easy relative to meeting it. But in one sense, it's not easy. This is not easy. There's a lot of having to meet many different pieces of processes and issues that are arising with people and groups and things that fail and things that, when you have these many balls in the air, they're gonna start dropping. And you might be creating new balls in the air, but others are dropping. So it's it's really a kind of skillfulness that comes if you do it long enough. It's not a high or a low, or how good you're going to do today, or how bad it's going to be today. None of those things are relevant anymore. It's just this continuous showing up with what is required. But I think in the unfolding of this purposeful direction, there is a intent that is holding what's happening. So there is always the showing up of that miraculous thing, of that thing that you couldn't possibly know before it showed up. So there is this endless kind of unfolding, and it's because the whole truth, well, welcome, Eric and Eric.
And Eric's dad.
Yeah. Eric 1 and Eric 2. What was I talking about?
Showing up.
Yeah, there was more than that, but I think that's. Oh, yes, the issue of a purposeful intent. A purposeful intent is everything. I mean, we talk about it in the Salt Weekend, and it is this creating a way of holding your life shows up, and that's everything. And the more you live aligned with the manifestation of that intent, the stronger and the clearer and the more the unexpected and miraculous can show up. It's like a momentum. And it just depends how much you can align yourself to live with that purpose, aligned with that purpose or that intent. So one of the unfolding intents of this year, or one of the things I'm looking for always, is how to further empower the people who are coming to me in moving into a more direct and immediate relationship with the divine principle that lives you. And that whole how that works has been a discovery. I've not gone back to books and reference, although I will occasionally, especially now with Marianne Chaplin, I'm reading her reference and I'm saying, my God, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what we're saying. This whole principle of embodiment, it's very much key to the unfolding. I was just telling Kaisa when I was meeting with her, I said, the highest state of spirituality are attained in the embodiment, when it can be entered into the body, into the physicality, into the tangibility of matter, that the more full, total states become available to you so that you're living in this direct and immediate with existence. So one of the things that's come forward this year more clearly than before is something that I actually knew about was happening with Oneness University. What was interesting with Oneness University is that they discovered that people with just a certain degree of preparation could start channeling the oneness energy. They call it the Dakshina. How many of you have done Dakshina here? Okay, surprisingly, usually I have 3 or 4 or 5 people raise their hands. So it's basically a simple technique of being able to bring through you to a group of people this blessing. Dakshina is a blessing. And it has a tangible effect for people who come, so that they, no matter where people are, wherever they're living, after a period of time, it starts flowing through them, and people are being benefited, such that at some point they too can be channels for this blessing. And it is a blessing of oneness. And I said, how wonderful, how interesting. This principle hasn't been talked about. And I do know that I think that recognizing that, and then recognizing what's happening with what we're doing now with people conducting small groups, Gita study groups, mother book groups, it's really started to sink in that, oh my goodness, well, they're channeling the Sat force. It's coming through. And it's coming through because they create a listening for it. And then people gather, come the means by which that opportunity can manifest. And they are being able to strengthen their connection to that Sat principle. So I'm recognizing that that is actually what's happening. And that when someone takes responsibility to hold a mother book or Gita study, Gita book study group, or takes on some of the other responsibilities of communicating this work to other people, that there is an acceleration for them. Because it seems to be that the attitude of being able to open yourself up to let that come through you is a direct reflection of your ability to link to the source of what that is. So in our case, it's me being a channel for that principle I'm labeling Sat force, but it's the same principle that's coming through the Oneness University at called Dakshina. But the difference is that this comes from that greater and transformative force, while the Dakshina brings a sense of oneness, which is the bliss or the Shakti expression, which is quite wonderful. It's quite healing, but it's not necessarily transformative. But the South Force is transformative. Once it gets in there, once it gets its place in your body, it just keeps working inside out. So this is where I didn't know. This I didn't recognize the effectiveness of that as a means to empower people to continue to progress steadily on the spiritual path. The other part of this that's just as important, not just the person's ability to hold space, to be in presence, to be neutral, to drop away their story and just to hold the space, not make something happen, but rather facilitate something happen, that something can come through that wouldn't otherwise happen if you were trying to make it happen. If you were trying to do a study group. And there are a lot of people who are still struggling to do a study group. That's perfectly fine. You got to keep beating your head against the wall until you decide that it's more effort to continue to do so than to stop. So there is something about that and the serving the teacher, the act of serving the lineage you're aligning yourself with. Because then that's what's happening. Just as I am channeling the Supreme Being through my being to your human being, empowering the being of the human in you. So too do you become the means by which your being becomes the means to empower others' being. And in that way, you're serving the world. And you can see it. You watch it happen. It's just like Paul when he was listening to the group in Boston, right? He must have been so proud. Yeah. It was just like, it was just like a love feast. 17 people just sharing some other book, right? Yeah, some other book. And all the people who hadn't yet quite come up, yeah, Susan knows, had come up. And what was allowing them to come up was they were being able to take a role to hold the space for the opportunity of what it is I bring into the world, into the group there in Boston. And this is the miracle. Of course, it's happening in Sweden, it's happening in Amsterdam, same principle. So this is one of the miracles. So this is one of the things that have unfolded in this purposeful movement forward. There is a way of giving people an opportunity to be of service and to open up to this channel, which then accelerates their personal transformation in the process of supporting people transforming themselves. This is great shit. I mean, I'm in wonder how this works. It's just like, holy shit. I'm glad something else is in charge besides me, because I wouldn't have known how to do this. I am simply observing how it unfolds.
Well, it's interesting because there's no planning, not really. It's just an idea.
It's just,
or somebody comes up with another idea, and we go.
Yeah.
And that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Or you can't tell it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. You won't.
It's debatable.
You don't know what to look for.
That's true. You don't know what to look for.
So now we're going to go to India and we're going to try to create a structure for this, which brings us to the point of defining the specific frame, the specific vessel that will honor this opportunity as it unfolds beyond us, so that there is an integrity, there is a holding true to that same basic principle of the revelation inherently already there in each of us, using scripture and self-inquiry and fellowship in a purposeful mix, like making a stew. Throw in a little Gita, a little mother book, a little purpose, a little presence and being, and then you mix it all up and shit happens. Sometimes you're making fireworks, sometimes you're making soup. To bring it so that this structure can be cognified. And that is probably the greatest labor, is the creating a frame that can take this purposeful effort movement in a way that it could be replicated. I know that what I'm speaking of has already been here. I would say that I'm discovering it, or that through the year, it's like digging for treasure. If you dig deep enough, you keep finding treasure, and then treasure, and then treasure. So you keep having to plow through the no treasure, right? That it's just same old, or just trying to solve the problem so you can get by to the next day. And then sometimes there's treasure, and the treasure is cumulative. It shows another quality, the aspect of existence of which we are participants in, that would not be available to us in our ordinary orientation as individuals operating the world. To make the shift from the individual orientation into the universal orientation is the most interesting shift there is. It is so interesting. First, your system goes through all kinds of crap, because you're not only dealing with your shit, you're dealing with the collective consciousness shit. But secondly, the nature of the revelations that are coming of a complete different order that were available to you as an individual being, because you start partaking in the Supreme Being, different expressions of the Supreme Being as it comes to the individual being, and then from that into the human being. And it's the human being that gets the wonder. It's the human being that gets the discovery. It's the human being that gets the payoff of finding out how the universe works and how we can move into alignment with that inherent purpose. Yeah, and another thing I heard from listening to the recording from Boston was Paul's recognition that divine will is Satchitananda. It's not like God wants something and then we know how to get out of the way so God can have its way. Satchitananda is the felt sense of current in your body. When you are feeling that current, then divine will is living you. Whatever you're doing, even if you have 3 or 4 kind of interesting things you do in a day, it will become, yes, that tea tastes so good. Yes, I have to wash the dishes, Oh, yes, the floor is dirty. I really need to mop the floor. It's so that's your day, or that's what comes up. And that then if you are living in line with that current, then that's the perfect expression for that current in that moment. It isn't about accomplishing anything, right? It's about discovery. It's about unfolding of what's already there. So divine will, the will of divine, is the purposeful current, the evolutionary current of existence. All are alive because of. It is what had us be birthed. It's what had us learn to become a human being. It's what had us grow and mature and develop. It is the same divine will. And it's only the problem is when we lay claim on our will about divine's will. And then we suffer. Learning to come back to our true nature after we lose our recognition that something is living us, beyond ourselves, we have to dismantle all those old adaptions, compensating structures. I did that. Look how good I did. I didn't do that. Look how awful I am, how incomplete I am. This is evolutionary purpose. The more your outer life can be an expression of that will, then the more you get to live in this effortless movement into each new moment without struggle. And in the process, if you recognize that it's purposeful, that your life is purposeful, and there's a reason for you to be in existence beyond what you can know at any one moment or any one stage of your attainment or realization or whatever, then there's always this endless unfolding. Realities of possibilities, of things not yet discovered. And the principles of existence begin to reveal themselves. They show you structures of how it works. I was talking to a student of mine from UK, and they have their own following. They have many students that they work with, and it's the same thing. The current is coming through them. They have particular techniques and methods that they use, but he's doing the same thing that I'm doing at the level he's doing it. And he's bringing that into the world, and he calls it arousal. It's like a condition of arousal, because when the work comes up, he has this passion for the work, passion to reach out to more people, passion, and thinking it's a problem because he should be meditating. And I'm saying, no. You're beyond that. You use meditation to help support you to do your arousal, to do your passion, so that you can continue to bring this into the world. This is exactly what you want to do. And the only difference about it is that, and it's true, come to me who are spiritual teachers, they're already tapping into the universal principles. They've already, either they learned them from their teachers or the technology, and then they're the expression of that without knowing that they're actually tapping into universal principles already. But to be able to receive the universal principles and then to learn how to work with them, to discover them, because you can't read about this shit. You can learn it by someone else who knows it, by sort of an entrainment. It kind of teaches you to discover, teaches you to explore, teaches you to how to stay open and to recognize that when something true that is beyond what you've been able to access before comes, to honor it rather than to dismiss it. It was one of the first lessons with me, because all my early awakenings were coming, and then I wouldn't lay claim to them. I would just sort of, oh, well, that was interesting. Now I get back to my real life. But when they didn't stop, I had to begin, well, maybe that isn't my real life. This is my real life. And that shift took time so that I could move myself aligned with that. So it really is a dharma. It's really learning to live aligned, new dharma, to live aligned with divine will, to this purposeful evolutionary force of Satchitananda, because it feels so good. I really can't begin to work with people until their system has opened up, that they can have some sense of this current. It's not enough to just feel the radiance. It's like the warm glow, like the spray on the side of a fast-moving river, rapids. It has to be the current itself. But if you can feel the awareness, you can begin to learn to tolerate the current, because that's what it is, because it's much bigger than us. And it will keep insisting. It'll keep insisting. Once you turn to it, it turns to you. You turn to it 1%, it turns to you the other 90. So it's this setting in motion, a process where mostly it's how do you ride the current? How do you handle the rocks and the low limbs that come to cut off your head, or the snares that are tangled in the bottom of the river that wants to just grab you, and then the current keeps ripping you, but you can't move, So there's the unfolding. What will next year bring? What will be it for each of you? It's really up to you and your willingness to keep recreating that possibility for yourself. To not take the present moment and use it to define your future. To keep unfolding in the possibility for each moment as it's unfolding. It's interesting. Paradoxically, it's both already here and yet still unfolding. It's already here, yet still unfolding. So if you say, okay, I already got it, I can be in the present moment, that's still that's just a process of the unfolding. It's how to be in the present moment as it newly unfolds, because it'll always show up in new ways that you didn't know before, that you didn't like before, that you were repulsed by, that you've avoided, that you're numb to, that you're scared by. So then you meet the next challenge, the next obstacle, the next trap, the next thing. And then that becomes the thing to meet, to find the treasure that's hidden in it. I was talking to Satyapriya about the winter program here in Washoe Valley, and it just occurred to me that there should be a movie night. We use the big screen TVs. They got a couple of big screen TVs, and what you watch is the movie you wouldn't ever want to see. You know,
open so many possibilities.
I saw a great one called Fortitude on what is it? It's on Amazon. The most
Iceland.
In Iceland, the most grim, gross, horrible, debauched, and it ends up at the end of the second session. The devil has taken over the town as the sheriff. So it is like, and you never know what's going to happen, and it just seems to be getting worse, and people
like
are
Game
dying,
of
and bodies are
Thrones.
showing up left and right, and strange diseases are happening, and you're trying to figure out what's great one to meet anything you got left in yourself about any of those conversations. So I mean that actually can be a rich opportunity. Actually, when I was with my teacher, we met a guru in Arizona. She had this TV room, giant screen TV with about 25 chairs, couches, chairs sitting around. And that's what she had this huge collection of, at the time, videos. And that people were to use those as a means of processing what's in them that they don't know how to be with yet. So you should all give a list to Satyapriya so she could make sure there is the movie night is at least going to be 2 or 3 people are going to get plugged in, and then use it as an opportunity to meet. Oh, God, that was so gross, or that was so disgusting, or that was so perverse, or that was so sweet, or that was so lovely. Oh, and look at how that poor cat, you know.
Always the cat. Yes, the possibility that you might perhaps the opportunity of living without your cat.
But please don't only do that if you're really, really ready to experiment with how fundamental the cat is in the organization of your sense of worth and life. You may risk a lot more than you may know. So be personally responsible for your own discovery of what may happen, and then stay with it long enough so you don't go running back to your cat in a couple of weeks instead of in 3 months.
Oh, God.
So, how do we come into existence is by meeting that which we don't know how to be with in existence. And you don't need to actually have it arise in your life. You can, do something you wouldn't want to do and meet it. I mean, if you've never downhill skied, go try downhill skiing.
It's a great year this year.
I remember the first time I went downhill skiing. I'd never skied. I was 30, I think, or 29, just graduated. I was architectural student. The guy I worked with as a draftsman was a skier. And I said, I really like to ski. He said, hey, I'll take you up. We'll go one night after work. It's only 2 hours and we'll get up there and we'll go skiing at night skiing. And I couldn't make it that night, but we went to Dex. We went on Saturday. We went up there, and the first thing he did was took me to the lift that took me to the very top of the mountain. I mean, if I was a little less coordinated, I wouldn't have been able to get on the lift. And when I got off the lift, I proved I wasn't coordinated. As I fell in a heap at the bottom of the top of the mountain. But that was just the beginning. When I got back on top of my feet, I'm looking at Mount Rainier right there. This is Crystal Mountain. So we're really looking across just a valley to Mount Rainier, giant. And when I came, it's a plateau, and I looked down, it was straight down for the first maybe 100 feet. Huh? So it took me 8 hours to get down the mountain. My so-called friend was passing me by. I don't know. He kept skiing. How you doing? I said, I'm never going to get down this mountain. I think I need to call. By the time I got back, I had fallen so much into the snow that my thumbs were this big. Both of them. So when I went to do Monday, I went to work. I had to use these two fingers to hold the pencil.
Oh my God.
I was determined to get down the mountain. And it was necessity. But I wanted to figure it out, and it was awful. There was some terrible snow. It was bad conditions and icy and all kinds. I really was bruised and all. So the next Tuesday night I went up. I just refused to go to the top of the mountain. And that became the year of skiing, where I decided to leave my job, and I spent a number of months in my car driving to every ski place in the United States. I skied everything.
Well, no, not in the United States.
No, not in the United States. East, West
Southwest.
Coast. Yeah. So, not Southwest, but to the Western states. So Washington and Colorado and Utah, all of those ski resorts. By the end of that 3 months, I could ski anything. Not particularly well, but I could get down. I could stay on my skis. And after some years, I was a pretty darn good skier. I met the challenge and stayed with it until it completed, rather than be defeated. It wasn't that I was thinking about defeat. It was really like, I know there are moments of this, even the first day, where I had like 4 seconds on the skis. This is cool. Just glimmers of what it was showing. So it's kind of like that on the spiritual path too, because it takes a commitment. It takes a leaping, and it doesn't make any difference if it's more than you can chew, because you still got to get down the mountain anyway. Because once you're shown this opportunity, you can't stop. Once you have a glimpse of that true love or that truth, you're hooked. And it's not the same without that. And so there is this part of you that will not give up if you listen to it, to keep pursuing what it is that would bring you into a closer and deeper and more fulfilling relationship. Because when it comes, this is what you've been looking for. This is what you're alive to experience. And you know what? The thing I want to say on this is, you're safe. there's no possibility of loss when you live aligned with that current. You can go ahead and risk. Take a chance. You'll just be better for it. You can't maybe know what that is. It maybe there will be periods of time where you will feel defeated. Yet on the other side of the dejection, on the other side, you find a deeper capacity to be able to be in existence than you had before. This is why it's not enough to ski down a mountain one long 8-hour day to realize the full treasure of what it means to ski. It's the same thing on the spiritual path. Whatever teacher, whatever path, whatever track you've gone that's got a point and then seemed to have gone away or lost its importance, it doesn't mean it's the end. It just means that the snow is good at that moment. Or that this turbulence has to be crossed and met before the next groove comes. So it is like downhill skiing because it doesn't take effort. It's not about climbing up. It's about finding the skillful way down because you're returning to your origin. It's like a falling into the relationship with existence that was always the right one that you hadn't been able to find. So you're safe. And the more you go, the more you know you're being held, like the mother book. Faith, sincerity, and surrender. This is the third chapter of the mother book. Held in her arms, no wrong can happen. No wrong will not serve. No struggle or effort will not serve. You'll be carried through all the ordeal and all the difficulty and all the apparent loss or diminishment. But it takes those three principles, faith, sincerity, and surrender. So if you're not sincere, then you're not going to stay because you're duplicit. There's something in you that's not sincere, means it's not aligned. That one part wants it, but another part's not ready for it. And it hasn't come to integrity. There hasn't been enough of alignment. So you have to have enough sincerity. Nobody has, well, I would say at some point you do have true sincerity, but it's a matter of learning how to keep reaching for a greater authenticity with yourself, a greater alignment within the different parts of yourself. So you're no longer bullshitting. You're no longer fooling yourself. You're no longer talking up a line or rationalizing and justifying to protect something, to defend something, because it's not yet aligned in you. You could just say, hey, it's not yet aligned in me. I don't have this worked out yet. I don't know what this is in me. Then you can be in authenticity with the lack of insincerity. You can be sincere in the lack of insincerity. And surrender. And surrender, of course, truly means the willingness to let go, get off it, and be willing to allow. It doesn't mean following the dictates of somebody else. It's this moving into alignment with the opportunity that's arising so that you will be willing to move into relationship with it. And then the faith grows. First, you have faith and you try. Like I had faith I could ski. I had faith that I could learn to ski. So have faith that you could learn to know yourself as the Supreme Being. And you can, that faith doesn't mean you're going to, matter of fact, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to discover you're nothing like whatever the Supreme Being is. You're one of these human beings, you know. degraded beings, one of these dysfunctional, distorted, perverse, obscured kind of beings. And once you get used to that, then you discover that your sincerity and surrender, the faith will be validated in time. It'll show you what it is that you didn't know was there. When you enter through the obscurity of that which is between you and a greater faith. And if you have the attitude as you got to get down the mountain, no matter what, then your resolve is a good substitute for faith until the faith comes. Your determination becomes the means to keep going, even though, you're going to be stuck with two big fat thumbs. All right. Where are we, timekeeper? Are you here?
I'm right here. You want to do a meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. That was easy.
Yeah. And then unless somebody wants to bring something forward in the room.
Then we just got out of the hot weekend. It's good to take a break.
Okay. Let us meditate. So we'll just sit in silence and stillness. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of your body sitting in the chair. Be aware of the energy in your body, or the sensation or pressure or blockage. And we'll sit for 15 minutes. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Good. Namaste. Good night.